All right, what's going on, everybody? Broken Games HDR here. And in this video, I'm going to give you my top 10 most anticipated games for 2020. So this list is only going to include games that we know are pretty much solidified for this year, 2020. Of course, there's going to be games that get announced in the future. We know there's next gen games coming out because the next gen consoles are going to come out this year. So those games, it's possible unannounced games would make it on my list if we knew about them, of course, but it's as of right now, which is January 21st. This is my top 10 most anticipated games. And just a disclaimer, I'm going to tell you from the get-go, number 10 on my list is not necessarily a game that I'm excited for. It's just so far, based on all the games that I looked at, it was pretty much like a filler. Like, I'm not really excited for it, but I could only come up with 9 games that I was really excited for. So this game pretty much only made it because there was nothing else I could really think of, right? That's the kind of year it is right now, based on the games that have been confirmed. So let's get right into the list. So coming in at number 10, which I just spoke about, I have Avengers. So I'm not overly impressed with what's been shown of Avengers. I think it might be a decent game. It might be a mid game. You know, I'm not really completely sure, right? It's been delayed. Hopefully that delay helps it out. I think the showing of it hasn't been necessarily the best. It looks a very basic combat. The story is original though. And like I said, it was pretty much between Avengers or Cyberpunk for the number 10 entry. And some people are gonna kill me for that, but I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't think what's been shown of Cyberpunk is very impressive at all. I think, you know, that game was delayed too because it was still very early in development, and what they showed really wasn't that great. It really wasn't impressive, and people really are hyping that game based on the resume of the developer behind it, who is CD Projekt Red, which most people have catapulted them to a top 3 developer in the industry, all based off of one game. So no, I chose to go with Avengers. Like I said, not really necessarily excited for it, but hopefully it turns out to be okay. So this literally just made it on my list because there was really nothing else that I felt like I could put there. So let's move on to number 9. So number 9 is Halo Infinite. So I'm not necessarily the biggest Halo fan. I'm a fan of its multiplayer. I think the Halo story is kind of overrated, and people are, you know, there's certain people that really think the Halo story is like really great. I don't really like the Halo campaigns like that. I beat like all of them on Legendary, so there is some enjoyment, I believe, to be had there, but I don't really go crazy over any like Halo campaigns. But I love playing the multiplayer, especially with people in the community. You know, that's real fun. It gets, you know, real crazy, like the free-for-alls, you know, the team slayers and all that stuff. So the Halo multiplayer is definitely what I hope brings some fun back around here, because, you know, it's been dry for multiplayer games. And, you know, Halo 5 did a pretty good job at that, even though people didn't really like the story very much. But Halo is definitely a solid, you know, franchise, even though it started to wane. And this is going to be on PC, right? I think this is. I don't think we got absolute confirmation, but it's probably going to be on PC, and you know, we can get away from that super claustrophobic FOV, you know, as we did with this recent Halo release that was on PC. So yeah, number 9 is Halo Infinite. Number 8 is Ori and the Will of the Wisp. So Ori, the original Ori was a fantastic game. Beautiful, very stylized graphics. I think the Will of the Wisp is an automatic Game of the Year contender. You know, they usually try to put the best indie type style. It's not an indie game necessarily, but they always try to put the best game of that like type in the Game of the Year categories, at least one of them. And and they usually choose the best of them. And Ori is definitely going to make it in there. Ori has amazing music, has amazing visuals, it has great Metroidvania style gameplay. Yeah, the game, everything about that game is solid. It really solid. It really is just firing on all cylinders. I really enjoyed the original, and I think they're just gonna expand off of everything they did with the original. That game is gonna be out of here. So for me, Ori and the Will of the Wisp is number 8. Number 7 is Nioh 2. So the original Nioh, I put like 85 hours into. And that was really because there was a whole bunch of like, they crammed a whole bunch of like optional bosses and optional stages in the original Nioh and everything like that. And I just felt the need to do every little thing. I did get a little bit fatigued by the end of it. Because yeah, you know, just playing nonstop and everything like that. But I definitely enjoyed the boss fights. The boss fights were really cool. I'm a little bit conflicted with Nioh 2 because it's coming to PS4 at launch, right, only. And I want to play it on PC, but I'm not into that whole waiting thing. I think waiting is for peasants. But Nioh's graphics are not great on PlayStation. You know, I played it on PlayStation Pro, and they had the option to prioritize the gameplay or the visuals, and you know, the frame rate or the visuals. And of course, with this type of game, you got to prioritize the frame rate. And of course, that lowers the resolution. I believe it might have been a dynamic resolution, but I think for the most part, the game ran at 720p on the PlayStation Pro, or it might even been 1080p. But the point is, the game didn't look great on PlayStation. But I don't want to wait like a whole year for it to come to PC either. I wish it was coming out day one on PC, because there's no way I would buy it on PlayStation if it was coming day one. But yeah, y'all know I love my Souls games. Y'all know how I feel about them. You know, y'all know I love challenging games and everything like that. So yeah, of course, Nioh 2 had to make it on this list for me. Number 6 is Gears Tactics. I'm a huge XCOM fan. For anybody who doesn't know, love XCOM, XCOM 2. You know, this type of strategy game is my thing. I always look for different games in this genre. There's a lot of clones, but nothing is really as good as XCOM. And the thing about this genre is you could pretty much do any game. You could take any game and turn it into this genre. You could create a Halo XCOM game. Literally, you could take almost any universe and make it into an XCOM style game, and it would work. You got to give it its own little characteristics and attributes, so it's not just another clone, but it could definitely work. And I've seen them do that. They're doing some unique things with Gears Tactics to differentiate it from other games of this caliber. So I think I might be on vacation though. I think I might be going on vacation the week that Gears Tactics comes out. But I ain't gonna lie, I might still try to I'm gonna have my laptop with me. I might still try to get some game time in you know, while I'm out there. So I'm definitely excited for Gears Tactics. You know, I think the Gears universe just translates very well into this genre. And you know, it's just another game. If you're into the Gears universe, them trying to expand it past just being a third-person shooter, as we've seen with like the mobile entry, and now this type of entry. So yeah, I'm hyped for this game. Definitely hyped for it. Number 5 is Resident Evil 3 Remake. I mean, I don't think this needs much explanation. Capcom absolutely did their thing with the Resident Evil 2 remake. And I don't think 3 as a remake is gonna be as good or impress us as much, because they set the bar really high with Resident Evil 2. But 3 is just gonna be another solid entry. I don't think it's gonna be better. I don't think it's gonna be like way worse or anything like that. I mean, I think most people would say Resident Evil 2 in general is a better game than Resident Evil 3 anyway. Well, some people think 3 is better, but I think the consensus, most people believe two is better in general. So yeah, the bar is set so high, and that like surprise factor of how good 2 turned out won't be there with 3. Our like expectations are set, so we'll still enjoy 3 and the fact that it takes place simultaneously as when 2 was happening, and they're adding some obviously adding their own modernization gameplay to 3 as they did with 2 and everything like that. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be fun. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I don't think this one is gonna be game of the year. I don't think it's gonna be nominated for like putting many game of the year categories like 2 was. Simply because of the fact that of what I stated before, that there's a little bit more competition this year, and like 2 already set our expectations. So, but yeah, this is gonna be successful, and hopefully, Capcom brings like Dino Crisis, a new Dino Crisis game, a new Onimusha game, and some more of those, because yes, we definitely want to play some of their old games remade. So yeah, Resident Evil 3 Remake is number 5. Number 4, oh man, I could hear the tears already. I could hear the frustration. I could hear the anger. How dare you? I'm gonna kill you, BG. I'm gonna find where you live. How dare you disrespect this game? Number 4 is The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah. Last of Us Part 2 is not even in my top 3. This is not a, to me, like when you look at this objectively, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's in my top 10 games. It's number 4, but some of you are gonna look at that like that's blasphemy. Like how dare you? This is heresy, right? And put simply, explaining why it's number 4 is, of course, I'm looking forward to playing the continuation of the story. They're fleshing out the Last of Us gameplay in part 2 and all the mechanics. I always felt like, even for its time, the original Last of Us game mechanics were kind of basic. The story definitely was great, but I mean, even the visuals for the original at the time, I never felt like the originals were mind blowing. People like to even exaggerate and say that the Last of Us remastered looks like a PS4 game. No, it doesn't. That game still looks pretty bad. Y'all look at one thing in the game, y'all look at the best thing in the game and say the whole game looks good. No, I look at the range. I look at the worst looking thing in the game, and then I look at the best looking thing in the game, and that's how I judge how good a game looks. But I'm going on a tangent. Point is, The Last of Us 2 is going to be a much better game than obviously the original, right? Last of Us wasn't even my game of the year, as it was many other people. But the real reason it's not in my top 3, it's not a better part of the list, is because there's not going to be a Last of Us Factions. And I love Last of Us Factions. I love that online multiplayer. So when Naughty Dog hit us with the bait and switch, they originally told us like, yeah, multiplayer is going to be there at launch, and then when it wasn't mentioned, we had to stab it out of them, tell us what's going on with factions, and everything like that. When they finally told us like, yeah, it's not going to be available at launch, sorry guys, and we've pretty much learned it's going to be a separate a separate product. And yeah, I'm gonna be real with you. If it was there, if Factions was gonna be packaged with this game as originally told, as how they originally told us, it would absolutely be number 1. It would be number 1, because it would be I feel like it's an incomplete product missing the multiplayer. So being with the fact that it's missing a part of the game that's important to me, it drops down 3 slots from number 1 to number 4. Sorry. So yeah, The Last of Us Part 2 is number 4. Number 3, and this shouldn't necessarily be a surprise. I mean, people like to get on me all the time that I screamed like a little girl and at the top of my lungs when this game was announced. Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's yeah, I mean, listen, it's one of my favorite games of all time. The reason it's number 3, I mean, you could argue it should be at a better place on my list, maybe number 1 or number 2. But the reason it's number 3 is because of the episodic releases. I even told myself at one point, nah, I ain't getting this game. They releasing it in episodes. Nah, I ain't with that. I'm gonna wait for the whole thing to come out. And then I was like, who the hell am I lying to? Like, why am I lying to myself? I'm getting this damn game. Listen, when it comes to your favorite game, everybody has a price. And that's just a fact. We can say, oh, I'm not gonna support this. I wouldn't do this. I'm not buying it. Until it's a game you like, yeah, shut up. It's like Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan until they get hit. So then and they hit us and they hit me with my favorite game, except it's episodic. And I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna buy that game. I'm gonna know my role, okay? So yeah, Final Fantasy VII, love the game. People have been clamoring for a remake for a long time. So yeah, I can't wait for it. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII is number 3. Number 2. This might surprise some people. Number 2 is actually Ghost of Tsushima. The reason it's Ghost of Tsushima for me is more about my interest in this game. Because it's like my interest is boosting up my anticipation for it, right? This game is gonna be God damn it, I'm forgetting their name. Sucker Punch's most ambitious game. And I think this game is really going to surprise a lot of people based on the scope and the magnitude and the just the gameplay mechanics, right? I don't know how the story is going to be, but I think this game is going to be very deep in the gameplay department. And I think it's obviously going to look the presentation is going to be top caliber, right? But as I said, am I necessarily like more hyped to play Ghost of Tsushima than The Last of Us? Not necessarily, but I'm more interested in playing Ghost of Tsushima than The Last of Us, due to just based on the fact that I kind of know what I'm getting with The Last of Us, and it is going to be like this open area linear game. I know what it is, and there's not much surprise, I guess. It's not even surprise. It's just that what I picture Ghost of Tsushima being based on gameplay, I think is going to have me more interested and enjoying that game slightly more than The Last of Us. So what I think Ghost of Tsushima is going to be is what I'm basing this off of. And I know that's kind of like, usually I don't make that type of leap, but I'm going based off of what we've been shown and what I'm like, I guess, predicting the game will be like. So yeah, it is what it is. Ghost of Tsushima for me is number 2 based on what's been shown and what I think we're gonna be given. The interest just catapulted it to number 2 for me, and just the fact that they've been working on this game so damn long. I think Sucker Punch is putting their foot in this game. They putting their foot in this game, and I think it's gonna be like a Game of the Year nominee. And I tend to love these samurai or ninja or shinobi games, whatever you want to consider it. I tend to love these things. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima for me is number 2. Number 1 is Dying Light 2. Put some respect on Dying Light and Techland's name, okay? The original Dying Light was the sleeper hit of the year when it came out. I don't even remember what year that came out, right? It was the sleeper hit of the year. It was the most underrated game of the year. It was probably the most unique game I played in a long time. Not that there's no other game like it. You can bring up a few other games like it. I mean, of course, Dead Island. Dead Island was a bad version of Dying Light. You could bring up you could bring up Mirror's Edge because of the parkour. You could bring up Brink because of the parkour and the shooting, and some other games. No game is completely original, but the fact that this game put together the parkour and the melee combat, but also had shooting combat and had an interesting story. The visuals were probably the weakest thing. And the game had so much like lore, and I love the Easter eggs. And then they released I think it was an hour-long gameplay demo, and it looked beautiful. And the game looks so fleshed out. They added like way more parkour moves. They added I think like, was it dialogue? It was like dialogue decisions and trees and multiple endings, and you got your choices and they got consequences, and they got this beautiful large world, and they expanded the combat. They tricked that thing out. Okay, Dying Light 2 is looking crazy. I don't know if y'all seeing what I'm seeing, but that game looks amazing to me. It looks phenomenal. By the way, I did an interview with one of the game designers for that, so y'all should check that out. I did a little hour interview with Simon Smektella, I believe his name was. So yeah, y'all should check that video out. But yeah, Dying Light 2 is just looking phenomenal to me. That game was disrespected because, and it's funny, that game has like a 78 on Metacritic, but it has a huge fan base. It's sold really well. And if you ask anybody who actually played that game, they'll tell you they are lost. They are bewildered at how that game has a 78 on Metacritic. That game is at the least a high 80. So I don't know what the people who were playing this game, I don't know what they played, but this game is at least a high 80. And I have no doubt that Dying Light 2 will be like at the lowest, low 90s on Metacritic. That game is going to be phenomenal. All right. So yes, Dying Light 2 is my #1 most anticipated game of the year. So yeah, that's my list. Let me know what y'all think. I'm sure some of y'all gonna have some problems. I'm sure I'm gonna get slandered for a few things. Hopefully I didn't I went through the 2020 list of games a few times to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I wasn't missing a few games that should be in consideration. Like I said, Cyberpunk 2077, I guess you could consider that an honorable mention. I don't think there's much honorable mentions but besides that one. And obviously, like I said, I'm going based off of games that pretty much have solid 2020 release dates or frames, like time frames that they're at least definitely releasing in 2020. Some of them, we don't know when, but they're definitely 2020 games. So yeah, hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can know anytime I upload a video. Let me know what y'all think about my list. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll check y'all next video. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.